I want to start by making a comment after spending some time with you guys. I made it in time to come to the some of the party last night, and then I've spent the day here listening to the speakers and talking to a lot of you guys as well. Just for the record, no one has ever asked for a photo of me in my entire life, but have at it. So, I have been very, very blessed in my life and in my career. Our businesses, we've had more than one success in business, from companies being 20-something years old and selling my first company to American Express, to, when we did the Priceline IPO, it was the third largest IPO in stock market history at the time. We were, according to what the U.S. Chamber of Commerce told me just last month, the fastest company in U.S. history from $0 to $10 billion in market cap. We took the company public after 11 months. So obviously we were very blessed to have those kinds of results. I've gotten to do a lot of really interesting things along the way, from in the music business, going on tour with NSYNC, going on tour with Britney Spears, producing concerts with Elton John, walking down the red carpet in Hollywood for a movie that we actually produced ourselves that got distributed, to the recent trips. I've never thought I'd find myself being called into the White House to talk to them about entrepreneurship. Recently, they asked me to brief members of Congress on American competitiveness. I just came back from a mentoring trip in Africa. When I got back, somebody said to me, "Well, dude, you're just really lucky." And something occurred to me. I'm not lucky, I'm engaged. And there is a very big difference. Engaged is all about putting yourself out there and taking a step forward and trying something outside of your comfort zone and trying something that everybody you know thinks is a stupid idea and that you can't do it. Engaged is about just being involved and being more than just present. It's interesting that we learn as we go along that you get out of this life exactly what you put into it. The energy you put out in the world is what comes back to you. So it's not about being lucky, even though that helps too. It's excuse me, just about being engaged. And I just want to say, standing there last night, watching you guys get up on stage and sing, even people that couldn't carry a tune if it were strapped to their back, that is about being engaged. And I have just been having a wonderful time with you guys, and I'm really, really impressed with the organization here. So thank you guys for letting me spend some time with you on this trip. These are the countries. The colors mean nothing. I just got bored. It was late at night. The list, and it's not a complete list. I was just making a list of all the countries in 2012 that I've been dealing with entrepreneurship in, either visiting, working with entrepreneurs, business plans, mentoring. Why is that important? Because what I want to do today is just share with you guys. I know the conference ends today and you're all going to head back to your companies. And here's the hope from all of us, is you go back to your companies with something to do differently than before you got here. That you got some things to think about and some things to try when you get back home. So I want to share with you, working with entrepreneurship all over the world. I was on 5 continents this summer alone, judging business plan competitions and mentoring entrepreneurs, etc. I want to share with you some of the best practices, some of the things that I think are the lessons learned. Somebody asked me once, well, you've had more than one success. We did more than one tech company, but we also did the entertainment company, the movies. Maybe there's something along the way you guys are doing right. What would that be? So I took on a project to try to study lots of people's successes and see what are the common elements of the world's best entrepreneurs, the world's best business owners, the world's best companies. And I'm going to share those notes with you. But I wanted to start by just quickly telling you my journey. I was working for a big company. And there's no right or wrong. I'm not here to judge. It's a DNA thing. Entrepreneurship is a DNA thing. There's a lot of stuff that you can learn to get better at it, like there is at everything else. But there's a big piece. And by the way, a lot of the things we heard today, I was thrilled to hear. I saw the word practice on one of the screens from one of the people. I was doing back in the internet days, I was helping this internet company that, of all people, I got a call from Michael Jordan. It was Michael Jordan, John Elway, and Wayne Gretzky started a company called MVP. And the company didn't work. I was walking down the street with Michael Jordan, and somebody said to him, well, it's easy for you. You have natural talent. And I remember his answer. Jordan said, if you consider getting up at 5 a.m. and shooting 600 free throws a day natural talent, then fine. All I have is natural talent. That guy didn't earn what he earned by just counting on natural talent. He worked. He practiced. He got better at it. It's interesting, another friend of mine that plays professional baseball, we were on the phone one day and he said, I got to go, I got practice. And I said, yeah, me too. And he laughed, and I said, why is that funny? And he said, you don't practice. And I said, actually, I do. Smart business people figure out that practice does make perfect. You are here. This is practice for your playoffs. Coming to an event like this is how you practice and get better. We do practice. They just don't consider that in other businesses. So when I first got to this journey, I was working in this big company, and the boss comes over to me one day, and he goes, hey, Jeff. And he says, come with me. Well, it's a huge sea of cubicles. So everybody's prairie dogging, right? Everybody's popping up to see what's going on, what's going to happen to Jeff. The boss came. And all the heads are popping up and down, and I'm watching that, and he doesn't see it. He takes me over to the window, and he says, do you want to get ahead in this company? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, he said, you know, there's a promotion coming up. We have a management position, and I have to decide who to promote. Do you want that job? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, then I'm going to tell you how I decide who I'm going to promote in this company. We're standing at a window. He points out, and he goes, what do you see out there? Well, it's the parking lot. So I'm not sure if this is a trick question, but I'm going to take a shot at it. So I said, cars? And he said, that's right. So I was going like, yes, I got the first answer right. And all my friends behind me are like, way to go, dude, you got an answer right. I don't even know what we're talking about at this point. And he said, let me tell you what I do every day at the end of the day so I can decide who to promote in this company. He said, I come to this parking lot, I come to this window, and I look outside, and what do you think I'm looking for? And I was like, well, I'm 1 for 1. I'm going to try it again. Cars? And he said, yes. And my friends are, oh, way to go, man. You're doing really good in the quiz, right? And he said, why do you think I look at these cars? And I said, I have no idea. And he said, I make a decision on who to promote by looking to see whose car is here last every day. And I sat there, my entire career just went down the toilet in that moment, because I was thinking, you've got to be kidding. And I tried to ask, what if it's just a person that is so bad at their job it takes them 10 times longer than everyone else? He didn't say a word. And I said, what if it's the least efficient person that's way behind and they have to stay later? He didn't say a word. He said, I know who cares about their company because their car is the last one here in the parking lot every day. And that was the day I knew I just couldn't do it anymore. And he said, so have you learned something here today? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, what did you learn? And I said, I'm just going to buy 2 cars and leave one here. And everybody behind me started laughing, and he whipped around with a glare, and all the little prairie dogs went back in the holes. And he goes, I suppose you think that was funny. And I said, honestly, sir, that was sort of funny. That was the end of my career. I quit about a month later because I knew there was no hope for me if those were the criteria. But I got to tell you another story that's really, really meant a lot to me, and it's really why I support EO. And by the way, I've gone before with Kevin Langley to some EO events around the world. I spoke at EO Nerve in New York the year before last. So I've been trying to be supportive of your organization because I love what you're doing, but this story will tell you a lot of why. So I quit a month later, and I went down the hall to the guy that everybody wanted to be at our company. His name was Charles. Charles was the hero. If you had an aspiration at this company, it was to be Charles. He was the highest ranking technical person in the company. He'd been there 26 years. Everybody loved him and respected him. The smartest person I'd ever met in my entire life. So Charles says, I need to see you. So I go down to his office and I said, what's up? And he said, I hear you're quitting to become an entrepreneur, with the little air quotes of whatever, ridicule. And I said, yes, sir. And he starts laughing. And I said, why is that funny? And he said, because you're fundamentally flawed and you'll never succeed at business. And I said, wow, the smartest guy I know just told me that I'm a big loser, okay? And I said, why is that, sir? And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with goodbye and good luck, okay? But whatever. So I can't leave. So he says 3 reasons. And I said, what is that? And he said, first of all, he said, you have no focus. And he said, Jeff, I have stuff that I've worked on the same problem for 3 years without losing focus. He said, you're always bouncing around to 15 things at once. He said, your lack of focus will make you a fundamental failure in business. And I was like, wow, I kind of slid down in the chair a little bit. The smartest guy I know is telling me what a loser I am. Then he said, I'll tell you the second reason. And he said, the second reason is, he said, you're one of the most impatient people I've ever met. He said, when you were growing up, did your mother ever tell you patience is a virtue? And I remember thinking, yeah, like 40 times a day, but I'm not going to give him that. It's true. I was told that. And he said, well, it is. You have to be patient. Things take time. They happen when they happen, and you're so damn impatient. And he said, and there's a third. And I'm like practically on the floor, sliding out of the chair under the desk now. as he's beating me to death. And he said, there's a third reason you'll never succeed in anything. And I said, what's that? And he said, Jeff, you have no respect for the rules. You have no respect for authority. You're 20-something years old. People way smarter than you and way better than you made the rules. They wrote the books. They created the industries. And you think you can come up with a better idea? I mean, I've never felt so stupid in my life. What makes you think you have a better idea than people way smarter than you that are the authorities in these industries? So be an entrepreneur, he told me. He said, you'll come crawling back here crying for your job, and I'm not going to give it to you. I went home that night very depressed. The smartest person I know just told me what a loser I am and why I was going to fail. I was so depressed, I didn't want to do anything. So I sat on the couch, and I turned on sports just to get away from it. Okay, baseball. In fact, one of the things I got really lucky to do one year is I was the chairman of the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. And I saw a guy on TV that was somebody I was a fan of in baseball at that point, but it was a golf show. And I'm not a golfer. I don't really like golf. I don't play it, but I played baseball my whole life. So the golfer stands there. This is an ESPN show. He takes the club, and he takes a beautiful swing at the ball, drives the ball 250 yards straight away down the fairway, down the middle. He hands the golf club to the baseball player, and he says, you do it. The guy swings this horrible, awkward swing, and the ball goes, 40 yards into the woods. And he says, you're swinging the golf club like a baseball bat. Your swing is horrible. Give it to me. He gives him the club back. The baseball player watches. The golfer drills another perfect shot down the fairway. And he hands the club to the baseball player. And he says, you do it. And the baseball player takes the club again, swings another horrible shot that goes the other direction, hooks off into the sand. And the golfer says, you're swinging it like a baseball bat. You are a horrible golfer. The baseball player says, and what he said next was a total epiphany in my life. He said, with all due respect to the game of golf, he said, I lead the league in home runs. I'm a 2-time National League MVP, a 6-time All-Star, and I make $20 million a year swinging the bat. I'm pretty good with my swing right now. I sat bolt upright and froze, and I had a realization. I was asking golfers for advice, and I want to play baseball. I don't want Charles' career. The guy that told me I was a complete loser was telling me how bad my golf swing was. I didn't want his career. I wanted to be a baseball player. So I immediately jumped up and started looking around my community for an entrepreneurial success story whose career I wanted mine to look like someday. And I found a guy. It took a little work to get him to have a meeting with me. He finally said, I'll buy you lunch only if it will get you to promise to never call me again as long as you live, because you're bothering the hell out of me. I said, I will stop if you have lunch with me. We went to lunch. He said, you got 30 minutes. 2.5 hours later at lunch, he said, and you guys will love this, true story, he said, Jeff, you're going to be a wonderful entrepreneur. And I said, why is that? And he said, there's 3 reasons. He said, first of all, you're a brilliant multitasker. And I was like, wow, I was out of focus 24 hours ago today. And he said, second, he said, you have a relentless natural drive. He said, entrepreneurs can't wait for things to happen. Entrepreneurs make markets. They create products, right? Entrepreneurs cause change to happen. They don't wait for it. They're proactive, not reactive. Your natural drive will do you well. Yesterday it was impatience. And of course, the third one, which was unbelievable, but he said to me, he said, the third reason is you're not afraid to try new things and blaze new trails and go somewhere just to see if there might be a better way, even though all the experts say they've already solved the problem. So it was an amazing story to me that what I realized was we have to surround ourselves by baseball players if we want to play baseball. Your network, your peer group needs to be people whose lives and careers you want to emulate. People that you want to look up to, again, that you want to be what they are when you grow up or along the path. That was the biggest moment in my entrepreneurial career, is realizing that I need to surround myself with entrepreneurs and being around the right people. One of the things I want to challenge you guys to think about, so that was the day I said, you know what, I am going to go out and do this, and I was excited, not depressed anymore. I just realized I was in the wrong group of people at the wrong place. Goodbye, golfers. Hello, baseball field. I'm on my way to entrepreneurship. But here's the thing that really struck me, and as I meet with people all over the world and entrepreneurs of all different kinds, you need to know why you're doing it. And frequently when I ask people, they might have known the day they started, but they don't keep checkpointing that. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Entrepreneurs work hard, they take risks, right? They do, you don't hear a lot of people that work for major corporations that are living off their credit cards, mortgaging their house, having their significant other yell at them for the 4 millionth time because they work too much. All the sacrifice that you make as an entrepreneur, your peers that don't work in this business, that aren't entrepreneurs, don't have to deal with that. So you need a reason every day to get up and to keep going when it's hard, right? And when it feels like nothing is going to work, and when you're afraid everybody else was right, it was a dumb idea. Something keeps you going, and it's important for you to assess that and know what the end game is. There's a worse problem than success, by the way. The worst one is people that don't know when to quit. I've met people that nothing's ever enough. Every time they make money, they have to make more. I worked with this guy that was a mentor of mine in some ways, but we sold a company, he bought a yacht. We got on the yacht, and he was happy looking down at all the little boats as we went, and it was just vulgar to me. And all of a sudden, sure enough, this big giant boat went past us. And I watched his jaw drop, and he watched the bigger boat, and he just turned and said, well, shit. And I knew what was going to happen. He was going to disappear from the face of the earth and everyone and everything he cares about for the next X years until he could buy a bigger boat. He never quit. He never knew when was enough because he didn't know what he was working for. Did you become an entrepreneur to solve a problem? Did you become an entrepreneur to change the world? Not everybody does this for money. That's why I think the movies like Social Network can be a little bit vulgar, because all they talk about is everybody's goal in life is to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. Guess what? That isn't true. So for me, it was the third one. All I wanted was to never have to work for a boss like that again. Granted, that took money, but my driver getting up every day was never money. My driver was freedom and independence. I never wanted to have to stand at a window and endure a quiz like that of sheer stupidity. One time in a staff meeting, I drew a picture of lemmings just in a row piling off a cliff. I didn't see that guy was standing over my shoulder. And he said, is that supposed to be some kind of commentary? And I have to bit my tongue off to not say the wrong thing when he was looking at this picture of the lemmings pitching over the cliff. All I ever wanted to do was never have to work for an idiot again, as long as I lived. That was my driver. Making money, making money counts. I'll tell you very briefly that when I first made money, I was 20-something when we sold our first company. We sold to American Express. It was a big deal for millions of dollars. I never thought about money, never focused on it, wasn't driven for it. I just wanted freedom. I understood that I had to have some money to have freedom. But I'll tell you what, a lot of things changed because all my friends suddenly hated me. And I dealt with resentment. And I learned this lesson that the higher you climb, the more of a target you are. People hate you and your success because it makes them feel bad. It has nothing to do with you. They want you to fail so that not trying will become acceptable. They can point at you and say, see, she never was going to pull it off anyway. They don't want you to succeed. Yeah, you didn't build it. So it was really interesting because I was sitting there feeling guilty. My friends, who were my friends the day before I had any zeros in my bank account, were suddenly saying, well, you don't understand. I was like, dude, yesterday I was borrowing money from you for a cheeseburger. Today I happen to be able to afford to buy one. That doesn't change the fundamental person that I am, but it did to everybody else. People treated me differently, and I'll just tell you guys a quick story. I felt horrible about making money. And then I was watching TV, again, sitting on the couch, kind of depressed again. So I proved the other guy wrong, and now I'm still not happy. What was wrong with this picture? And why did I feel guilty about succeeding in business? But I'll just tell you a very quick story. I had the TV on, and it was all these women crying. And I stopped the channel, and they were closing down a battered women's shelter. And the interviewer was saying, so where will you go? And these women were in tears saying, I guess back to the guy that put me in the hospital in the first place, or the streets, but I have kids, I can't live on the street. And I remember, at the end of the story, they say, well, coming up next, sports. And I was like, holy crap, what a cold world, right? Because that's the world we live in. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I hope they do something. I hope they fix the problem. And that was the moment in my life. The next day in my office, I wrote on my door, there is no they. It's us, people. It is our job to be successful so that we can make the world a better place and make a contribution. I'm assuming there's a sign behind me that randomly says applause. Is that why you guys are doing that? I actually did the coolest thing I've ever done in my life at that moment. I drove to the bank with a duffel bag. And I found out, I called the news station, I found out how much money they owed, I found out what their rent was. I took all their back rent plus the next year's worth of rent, put it in cash in a duffel bag. I drove to the place, parked in the alley down the street, climbed over the fence so they wouldn't see me, and left them the money and went back. When I got home, I saw on the news that night all the women were cheering and celebrating, and I'm getting emotional now. They were saying, some random guy walked in here and paid our rent for the next year. We don't have to leave. I could not wait to get back to work hard, and make money again tomorrow because I was able to do something positive that I couldn't have done if I didn't make any money. Thank you. You guys don't have to do that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Entrepreneurship is a means to an end. It's a lifestyle. It's a commitment, but it's an opportunity. And I think we should all feel privileged to be an entrepreneur because I never could have done those things if I had stayed in the world that I was in before. So let's talk about some of these tips on what makes entrepreneurship successful and what I think some of the best in the world do on a routine basis. The beauty of entrepreneurship is that it's about the power of ideas. Entrepreneurs are people that turn ideas into profitable businesses, right? Even if it's a nonprofit environment, it still needs to be run well, efficiently, make money, etc. Entrepreneurs take ideas and turn them into businesses. The beauty, so we are in the idea harvesting business. That's what we do for a living. We harvest ideas and make something out of them. The beauty of that business is the power of, and I heard this earlier today, I think, the power of an idea is that it doesn't care where it came from. A good idea does not care how old you are. It does not care if you are male or female. It does not care what country you came from or what accent you have. A good idea is a good idea, and good ideas win. That's the beauty. That's the joy that I wake up with every morning. Being an entrepreneur is every single day you might have a new idea that wins. I'll tell you guys a story. By the way, this picture, I'll tell you really quickly, is from the day EO almost killed me. I'll tell you that in a second, why I chose that picture. But I was standing, I had just left actually Google headquarters, seeing innovation, and I was standing in the dirt of Egypt. Kevin Langley asked me to go with him on an EO trip to Egypt to talk to entrepreneurs. So I was over there with Kevin, but I was standing in the dirt of Egypt. Kevin and I were taking pictures of the pyramids, and some Egyptian kid walked up to me and said, "Hey, Mr. Hoffman, can I tell you my idea?" And I was like, "Sure." So having just left Silicon Valley, where they believe they own the patent on good ideas, they do have some things in their ecosystem that are great, but I fundamentally believe any one of us at any moment, anywhere, any day could have the next good idea. And I'm going to talk about how you stimulate that idea flow in just a second here. This kid says, I said, "Sure, tell me." He leans over and whispers this idea to me. I was dumbfounded. And he said, "It's so bad you can't speak?" I said, "It's the best idea I've heard in probably 10 years. And it happened in the dirt of Egypt from some Egyptian kid who actually fought in the revolution, and in the middle of the night one night when he couldn't sleep, came up with an idea that was more brilliant than anything I just heard the entire week at Google. A good idea can happen anywhere. I'll tell you guys why I picked that picture really quick. I try really hard in all these countries to not eat the wrong. I don't want to die in some hospital or in some bicycle ambulance that's wheeling me to a hospital in some third world country. So I'm really careful about what I eat and what I drink. So I'm standing there with Kevin. They're taking pictures. This is a picture from seconds before the crime was committed. This guy lets go of this rope. This camel with the big long neck does a reach around. When I turn, its nose is right in my face. I open my mouth to say hey, and the big black gnarly tongue went in. I stood there spitting and screaming. All the Egyptians were laughing. And I said, "It isn't funny. I am going to die of camel tongue disease." The only thing I could find was I think Langley had some hand sanitizer. So I was drinking it. And people were like, "It says on the bottle, do not ingest." I said, "Are you freaking kidding me? I'm supposed to ingest that instead of hand sanitizer?" I literally thought I was going to die for EO on this trip. I did not, in fact, die of camel disease. And the only thing the Egyptians told me is, after you kiss her like that, you have to marry her. That was really, really helpful. So we've agreed that entrepreneurship is about the art and science of harvesting ideas, but ideas don't just happen. Ideas aren't just, well, let me say this. Somebody once said to me, "You guys have had multiple successful companies," which meant you came up with more than one good idea. Why do you think that happened? So I thought about it. And it's because we don't just wait around and hope that while we're in the shower, a good idea will happen. I actually use a technique to increase the odds that I will have a good idea. And I'm going to tell you what I call it. I made up this term because I don't have a term for it. I just call it info sponging. But let me tell you what this is. The first, now I should edit this slide. out of respect for the morning presentation, that the first few minutes of your day you should be quiet and meditate. Okay, I get that. I will give that an attempt. However, this is what I do the first few minutes of the day. The point is that we get so caught up in our business every day. If you're in healthcare, you spend all day in healthcare. You go to healthcare conferences, you read healthcare magazines. That's what you do all day. If I were to ask you, hey, what's going on in banking, you would say, I don't know, I'm in healthcare. I don't do banking. My products and services are healthcare, not banking. Here's what I'm going to venture to tell you. The reason some people have such good idea flow is because they take time to pull out of their business and their company and look at a broader world around them. So here's what I do when I info sponge. The first 20 minutes of every day, if you can't do that, do it once a week. The first 20 minutes of every day, I do not answer email, I do not do text, I do not do my phone, I do not work for my company, I am not in my industry. For 20 minutes, I let my mind wander. I click on stuff that I have no idea why I'm clicking on, whatever catches my attention. I click on banking, I click on government things, I click on competition, announcements. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the world around me and I write down interesting data points. I'm going to give you an example really quick here in a second. So I'm reading stories, writing little data points down. I don't even know what these things mean at this point. I'm looking for disruptive events, for new technologies. I'm looking for changes in the business. One of the things I do twice a day is I go on Yahoo and I look at the top 10 trends. The top 10 things that are trending right now that people are searching for. What am I looking for at that moment? I do not know. What am I learning? Day by day, I am very in touch with the ebbs and flows of what my customers are thinking, because I'm looking at what everybody's doing on the internet all the time. I start to get in tune with that. I write down these data points. Every day at the end, I literally look at this list of data points of things that I learned, and most days I say, what does this mean? You know what the answer is? Nothing. Just some randomly interesting points that have nothing to do with me. Guess what happens if you do that tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow? One day I look up and I say, you have your holy crap moment. You say, wait a minute, if you took this thing and you go back to what I saw on Thursday and that new technology on Friday, suddenly all these data points start to form pictures in your mind. It's like putting puzzle pieces in front of you and moving them all around. So I'm going to tell you a real example of this. And I literally, as corny as this sounds, I actually do this every day. I look at those data points. The world moves fast. Things happened while I was asleep. I look at those data points every day when I do my info sponging. And I look at that and I say, what can I do today that I couldn't do yesterday? Just ask the question every day so that it forces your brain to think that way, looking at all the things that you learn. I'm going to give you a real life example. One time I was watching, it was a news story in the upper left. It was about distressed inventory. The story was that every single day, 600,000 airline seats fly around the country empty. At that moment in my life, that meant nothing to me, but I wrote it down because I was info sponging. Then in the lower left, I read a story about perishable commodity distribution systems. It was about how to sell fruit and produce. I don't sell fruit and produce. So in my normal life, would I have ever read that article? No, it has nothing to do with me. I take 20 minutes a day and do it anyway. I read the article about perishable commodities, and guess what? A banana, even a banana lasts for 3 days, but when you close the door of an airplane, the goods spoil immediately. It was a story about perishable commodity distribution. I wrote it down. Later, I wrote down one about dynamic pricing and how confusing it is to consumers in certain industries. We literally were sitting at the table one day with all these points written down, pushing them around like puzzle pieces, saying, what can we do today that we couldn't do yesterday? I remember those days sitting there with Jay in Connecticut very well, because what we created out of it was Priceline.com, an opportunity we never would have seen if we weren't collecting data of the world around us and looking at it once a day just to see if something was there. You literally wake up one morning and say, holy crap, I could launch something I couldn't even do yesterday because of this, and this fact in the world. It enabled us to create that. Today, like I said, this is a $30 billion company with 100 million customers in 46 countries that was started by a few people sitting at a table pushing notes around to see if we could come up with a cool idea by studying the world around us. That's what info sponging is all about. You've got to continually do this. I do that every single morning just to keep my mind flowing with fresh ideas and so I could find the next one. You've got to continually innovate to do that. I just wrote this down because my absolute favorite sentence in the world is when people come up to me. Well, no, I guess it's, I think I owe you money, Jeff. That might have been on the list. When people come up to me and say, wouldn't it be cool if? because it means people are thinking outside the box. I just love it when somebody runs up and goes, man, wouldn't it be cool if? And most of the time it's something you can't even do, but the point is they're thinking way outside of the box and they're thinking about things that would be cool. So I just wrote that down because I love it when my employees start a sentence with that, because it means they're looking at this world around them and trying to think up cool things that we might be able to do. I want to give you another lesson that I think is really important. And if I had the time, I would have asked all of you this question. But the way you think about your business drives the way your business goes. So I'm going to give you a real example of what I mean by that. Because if I come and ask you what you do for a living, one person might tell me I sell insurance, I sell, these plastic items, whatever it is you sell. You'll tell me the product you sell. But the miss that you're having there is that is not why your customers come to you. They didn't come to you thinking they needed to buy that product. They came to you to solve a problem that product solves. So let me give you the example. Back in the day, I was on tour with NSYNC. I will skip that picture. We were on the road touring. They were huge at the time. So we were at the biggest music store in Times Square. And because it was NSYNC and they were big, the owners of one of the biggest music chains in the world flew in to be there for them. So I'm sitting with the owners of this music business, one of the biggest music distributors in the world at the time, when we're waiting for the guys to go do this appearance. And I said to the guy, what business are you in? And he said, retail. Why? And I said, I don't think you're in retail. And he said, Jeff, this is what we do all day. We buy carpets, we buy racks, we buy CDs and light bulbs. We're in the retail business. I said, you're in the distribution business. And he said, not really, we're in retail. And I said, well, let me ask you the real question. I said, why do your customers come to you? And this is the question I want all of you to answer. Why do your customers really come to you? You know what he told me? He said, to buy CDs. I said, nobody wants a CD. They looked at me like I was nuts. And he said, Jeff, do you want to know how many million CDs a year we sell? And I said, with all due respect, nobody wants to buy a CD. And he shook his head and they were laughing at me. They said, look, right down there, we were in this upper thing. All these people are buying CDs. And I said, and guess what? None of them want them. And he said, what do they want? I said, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, geez, I wish I was holding a round piece of plastic with a hole in it right now. Nobody wants to buy a CD. People wake up in the morning saying, I want to hear that song right now. Okay? And he said, what is the difference? And you want to know what the difference is? The music industry did not invent the iPod or iTunes. The music industry lost billions of dollars because they believed they were in the business of selling CDs. Nobody wants a CD. They buy it because they have to. What they want is to hear a song. I was talking to a company the other day. I said to the guy, what do you do? And he said, I have a $10 million yield business selling sand. I said, why do your customers come to you? And he said, to buy sand. And I said, nobody wants to buy sand. And he said, Jeff, I told you, we sell $10 million a year worth of sand. I said, why do they do with it? And he said, oh, almost all of them build bridges. And I said, people wake up in the morning needing to build a bridge. They buy the sand because they have to, not because they want to. And he said, again, what's the difference? I said, I want you to start thinking about ways you can help customers build bridges. His sand company has like 4 product lines now, all in the bridge building business, and he's more than quadrupled his revenues and his profits because he thinks about why the customer really comes to him. They don't want to buy sand, they want to build bridges. They don't want to buy a CD, they want to hear a song. Nobody wants to do this in the morning in our business. I used to tell my employees, nobody wakes up and says, geez, I really wish I was in a middle seat with some giant person leaning back with crappy food on a long flight where the air conditioning doesn't work. That is not what our customers do. Priceline doesn't sell airline tickets. Nobody gets up in the morning wishing they had an airline ticket in their hand. What do they want? They want to go to their sister's wedding. So my challenge to you is, if you knew that your job was to get people to their sister's wedding, would you do anything different than if you thought your job was to sell airline tickets? And I'm going to say yes. So I want you all to take that challenge and think about when your customer gets up in the morning, what are they really trying to do? They might buy your product along the way, but that is not what they started the day thinking about. Here's another one that I really feel strongly about. I talk to entrepreneurs and I read business plans all the time. And people's goals are really ambitious. And people want to do a lot of different things, but I'm going to tell you the greatest companies in the world got that way by picking something they could win at and being the best damn whatever that is that they could possibly be. You cannot be 5 things at once. You can get there eventually. In fact, when you think about it, I asked some younger people today that did not know that Amazon started out as a bookseller. I actually spent time back then talking to Bezos and some of that team. They always had plans. Amazon sells everything today. They always planned to sell everything, but they were smart enough to be the best damn bookseller on the planet. And what happened? Customers said, this experience was so amazing, I'd like to buy other things from you. I was out on the speaking tour with Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos. And guess what Zappos sells today? All kinds of women's clothing and accessories and handbags. But he had a simple goal when he started. We are going to be the best shoe seller in the business. We'd be the best online shoe seller there is. And what do you think happened? When you get known for being the best at something, the best comes with connotations. Everything else follows. Stop trying to do all these things at once. Pick the one thing you know you can absolutely win at and kill it. Right? Absolutely kill that. When you are the best at it, people will come to you for everything. I just see too many people trying to do too much. My example is, if you met two people you were thinking of hiring and their resumes were the same, but one guy was an Olympic gold medal winner, would that create any notion in your head? Probably. An Olympic gold medal winner means that person has dedication, execution, they're competitive. It leads to a lot of beliefs about you, from you, about that person and what they're capable of. That's what happens when you pick one thing and become the best whatever you are in the business. You have credibility and the market will pull you to them. You want to be later. You know, I didn't have to go, when we built something like Priceline, we didn't have to go brag per se about ourselves. People would say, wait, you guys, you're the people that built that? I'd love to have you involved in this. Do one thing and be the absolute best at it. We call that, at my company now, Color Jar, we call that the golden purpose. Your golden purpose, I actually have a chart here. Your golden purpose is this intersection, but forget, we won't go in the details of it now. But here's the point. Let's say that you come up with a business idea in an industry. Here's an example. I actually had a guy that showed me a healthcare device, a medical device. And I said, so you come out of the medical business? And he said, no. I said, you design devices? And he said, no. And I said, so you work for a hospital? No. Do you have relationships in the medical field? No. And I sat there thinking, well, this is a good idea, but don't you think somebody that has background, experience, relationships, and business in this industry could just come along and sweep past you? My point isn't that you should never try something you haven't done. My point is you should take a pencil and write down the list of reasons you believe you are uniquely qualified to win something. When we first started talking about Priceline, my team knew the back end of every airline system. We knew the proprietary airline languages. We had written the code. I could personally pick up the phone and call any CEO in the airline business and they would take my call. So somebody once said to me, if you tell her your business plan, don't you think she'll steal it? You know what my answer was? Have at it, babe. Go for it. I'd love to see you get any of the things. We are uniquely qualified with skills, experience, and relationships. We have assets that allow us to believe we can win at this one. So all I'm telling you is your golden purpose is that intersection between what you have unique abilities, talents, and relationships to win at, what you love doing, what there's a market for, and over on the far right we wrote fan frenzy. That's the market piece. Something you believe that you can build a fanatical audience for. People that will love you. I tried this example with Zappos just to prove a point to somebody. We were in a restaurant and I said, watch this. And I stood up and I said, God, that Zappos company, they suck. I think like 15, it happened they were all women, about 15 women almost beat the hell out of me. And I said, are you a shareholder? No. I said, do you work there? No. And I said, then what is your problem? And they said, we love that company and we will fight to the death for them. Whatever they did, they found fan frenzy because they did something that they were the best at, that they were qualified to do, and people defend them like a religion. That is the intersection of that chart. That's what we should all shoot for. Where can you build a fan frenzy using a skill set nobody else has? So sometimes I have to deliver the bad news. I tell people your business is a good idea, but now that I know you, you do way better at this other thing because you're uniquely qualified for it. You're in an also-ran business over here when you could be kicking ass and finishing first over here. Think about that as you go along. I won't get too deep into the branding piece, although I spent a lot of time on it, but I'll give you one really important lesson. I ask people, why should anybody do business with you? So we talked a minute ago about your customer wakes up in the morning, and now you know what they were really thinking when they woke up in the morning, not that they wanted to buy sand, that I've got to build a bridge today. Whatever it is that's in their head, now you want them to choose you to build that bridge. Here's a mistake a lot of companies make. They can tell me 15 great things about their company, okay, or even 10. But here's the hard-earned and expensive lesson. People only resonate with one driving force. If you go ask people, Why did you pick us? Why did you come to our company? There is always one overriding thing that caused them to come to you. When they get there, you can tell them 10 other benefits of doing business with you, but you can't get them there for 10 reasons. Nobody reads a list that long. It's confusing, and it kind of dissolves the solution a little bit. Your job is to say, what is the one single best thing about us? It's that you're hoping for the most unique, strongest asset you have. What really makes you different than everyone else? What is that one strongest thing about you that resonates most with people? And then pound the hell out of it with your customers. Obvious examples. Walmart never promised you that you could go in the store and go up to that 18-year-old kid who was wearing a Walmart shirt and texting, and you say, excuse me, I have a question, and they look at you like, can you not see I'm texting? Right? You're a customer. You're the most annoying thing on earth. Go talk to somebody else. Walmart never promised you that anyone would ever answer your question. You went there because it was always low prices. You went there knowing it might be a pain in the ass experience, but the price was low. They picked an asset. They picked a horse to ride in the race. Nordstrom's is the opposite. Nordstrom's, if you went into Nordstrom's, picked up a $385 sweater, walked past the white-gloved piano player to the counter where 7 girls were waiting for you, and said, what, this price is ridiculous for this sweater, they would look at you like you were nuts and say, ma'am, you're in Nordstrom. You didn't come here for a sale. We don't do sales. You came here for quality and experience, not for price. Pick an asset that you think is the strongest thing about you, that's most recognizable, and build your entire brand around that. I want to tell you a quick story here about how to streamline your business. I was on the speaking circuit at this point with Jim McCann, the founder of 800 Flowers. And he did something really cool, and it's something that I live every day. I try to with my businesses. We made sure that everyone in the company knows how you live. The company, what is the engine that drives your company? In his, it's selling more flowers. Really simple. Our job is to sell more flowers. So he walked me down the hall, and somebody was doing something. He said, hey, stop. And he said, what are you doing? And she answered, and he said, how does that help us sell more flowers? You have 2 choices. You either know, or whatever it is, put it down and go do something else. Every activity that every person does every day in your company, if they can't tell you how it sells more flowers, they should put it down. So we go to the garage and do something else. It is your job as a leader to make sure people know what the engine of your business is, selling more flowers, and make sure that every time they pick any activity up, they know the relationship between that activity and selling more flowers. Very quickly, we went down to the garage. There's a mechanic, greasy, dirty mechanic under a delivery vehicle. He calls him out, says, what are you doing? The guy says, changing fuel filters on delivery trucks. And I'm thinking, well, this one's not, not so obvious, is it? And the guy says, why are you doing that? And the mechanic says, I did some research. I found these fuel filters that save on average 13% on a tank of gas. I multiplied that by the cost of a tank of gas, and I figured that if we could save 13% per delivery, split it 6.5%, whatever it is, each between us and the customer, the company saves money, the delivery price goes down, and lowering the delivery price will probably sell more flowers. I thought that was brilliant. The mechanic in the garage could tell you why the task he was doing right now, how it could help sell more flowers. Streamline your business by making sure everything everybody does achieves some objective. And if I were to walk to your company today and ask one of the employees, what are you doing and why? They would say, I'm changing fuel filters to lower delivery costs to sell more flowers. If you're not there, you have room for efficiency improvement to do that. Live a day in the life of your customer. Very, very interesting. I just want to tell you a quick story on this one as well. I go to companies, and where are they designing their products? In their conference room. Where do you have your meetings? In your conference room. We're designing our products and services for our customer in a room that our customer is not present in. Okay? So we design our products from the company out, and we hope when it gets there the customer will like it because we know so much about the customer. Okay? Which we believe because I've been in this business X years or whatever. As opposed to designing the product from the customer in. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. Well, I'll tell you, when we started Priceline, all of my friends thought it was a stupid idea and said they would never use this. Okay? Here's the problem. None of my friends, my employees, wouldn't have used the product. So why am I having my design engineers design a product they wouldn't even use? If you have no one in the room that actually uses that product, you are making a mistake. What we did was our customer was at Kmart right now, not an engineer at a web company that was well paid. Our customer was at Kmart with a shopping cart waiting for the blue light to go off so they could smash old ladies to save 69 cents. So what did we do? We left the conference room and went to Kmart. We had some wonderful moments. I had more than once where a woman called security and said, "A strange man is asking me if I want to fly to New York with him." So I am telling the police officer, "I didn't invite you to New York, I just asked how you would get there." And they're like, "Sir, could you just leave the store? Maybe you're upsetting all the women in the produce department." But we went out to where the customer was and asked them how they wanted to do it. One of my favorite moments in business was I got to spend this afternoon with this elderly gentleman who was in the retail business. He told me that the picture on the left was his conference room. He said, "No offense, Jeff, but we got all these Harvard MBAs that we actually need them to design our logistics, supply chain, and accounting department." And he said, "But I'm trying to figure out what my core product should look like." So I sit in this room with these Harvard MBAs and I look around, and he said, "My customer right now is not in a room like this. My customer is at the diner eating apple pie. So you know what?" He said, "This is what I do, Jeff. I just get up and walk out. I go to the diner, I order apple pie, and I just sit there with a notepad, chatting with people until I get what their life is like, what their needs are, what their day looks like, what they think about, what they worry about, and then I know how to design my business." The interesting part was the old man that I spent the day with that told me that was Sam Walton. And he told me that. I said, "How'd you do it?" And he said, "Because I went to the diner, not the MBAs, and I sat in the diner, and I let the people that were my customer tell me what they needed, how they wanted to shop, and where they wanted to shop. They designed Walmart, not me." I think that is absolute brilliance. It sounds simple, but people don't do it. Live a day in the life of your customer. You know what I do at all my companies? Once we have defined that customer, we make cardboard cutouts. So in my conference room, there's a seat for my customer. If she is a middle-aged housewife in Iowa with $40,000 income, 2 kids, whatever it is, it's printed all down her. When my employees come in and they say, and I have one in my office, they're all over the office. When my employees come in and say, "I have an idea," I say, "That's great, but don't talk to me, talk to Betty." And if they say, "Well, she's an Iowa housewife, she's not going to get it," I say, "Bye-bye." When you can explain it to Betty, I'm interested in listening, but it doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter if I own the company. If Betty doesn't get it, we got nothing. My employees, we get to the point where they'd walk in my office, look at their paper, look at me, look at the cutout, and just make a U-turn without ever saying a word. Because we knew we weren't there until our customer gets it. Find a value equation. I just want to say that I see so many business plans that people are all fired up for because, quote, "Everybody loves my idea." Well, guess what? A good idea does not a good business make. I did an example one time just to dramatically make this point with somebody because they were telling me everybody loves this thing. A good idea, the difference between a good idea and a good business is whether or not you can actually make money doing this. If there is an actual value equation that somebody will pay more than it cost in the simple terms. Obviously, Steve's workshop and some of the other ones will talk about how to make money in a business. But here's the basics. So these guys were telling me everybody loves my product. So I'd read a story about there's a new machine now that you can actually make diamonds, artificially produce real diamonds. So I said, "Let's try this." So we were at a restaurant. So I started asking everybody, "Who wants a diamond machine? What is it? You can make diamonds at home." Me, every single person in the restaurant said, "I'll take one." I said, "Oh my God, everybody loves my product. Everybody wants a machine that makes diamonds." So I got a great positive reading. Everybody loves it. Then I said, "Watch this." And I went back. And I said, "Ma'am, you know, they cost $20 million each," which was the real number. And she goes, "You can cross me off." And I said, "Oh, there's more. It costs $100,000 for every $1,000 worth of diamond that you make. So for what you'd have bought in the store for $1,000, it costs you $100,000 to make. After you spend $20 million, nobody wanted a diamond machine anymore." Just because people like your idea does not make it a business. You have got to find a value equation. Why did Priceline work? Priceline worked because you have an empty hotel room generating $0 worth of revenue. It has a carrying cost. They have to clean it, air condition it, and pay rent on that hotel room. You got a consumer across the way who doesn't have $200, and the cost of that hotel room is $30. So if I sell it to the consumer, if they're willing to pay $100 for a $200 hotel room, you as a hotel are willing to take $60 on your $30, and I keep the other $40. There's no loser in my food chain. That's the kind of deal you're looking for. Where is a deal where everybody can get paid and there's enough money and value that everybody's happy with their solution? That's what you're looking for in a value chain. Obviously, it worked in our business. So I'm going to stop there, but actually I do want to, before we go to some questions, I want to close with something that kind of occurred to me in listening to a lot of you talk and to a lot of the other speakers today as well. I just wanted to share with you some tips that I think are important in building a successful company as an entrepreneur. But I want to close with one. This was another one that was a serious epiphany for me in everything that you do in life. And entrepreneurs, by definition, our DNA is that we are people that we don't know the outcome of the thing we are about to do. We are willing to go try things that we don't know the outcome of, but here is what we do know. We do know that if we try to go to sleep and go on with our life without ever even trying, it'll eat away at us forever. We know that the shame in life is not in failing. The shame in life is in not trying. You can try really hard. Well, it's true. You can try really hard at something and fail, and you can live with that. We gave it our best shot. We can't think of anything we would have done differently. That is livable. Spending your whole life wondering woulda, coulda, shoulda, I wonder if that idea would have worked. Or worse, you turn on the TV one day and someone just became rich and famous, and that, I swear to God, that was my idea. That's an even worse feeling. So entrepreneurs, we try things and we don't know if they're going to work. But here's what I would say, one of the most important lessons that I've learned along the way, which is whatever it is you set out to do, never be satisfied with anything less than your best effort. If you're thinking of quitting something, of ending it because you're not sure, end it, finish strong. End it with a huge burst where you know you've left everything out there and you've tried everything you could. And I'll tell you where I learned that. Another friend of mine is well, he was a professional boxer. It's Evander Holyfield. Most people know Evander more because Mike Tyson bit his ear off. But you know, my proudest moment of Evander is he was the first person ever to knock Mike Tyson out in a fight that Vegas had him at 50-1 against. And I remember Evander was never, ever not confident. He could live with losing the fight. He couldn't live without training and preparing his best and giving it his best shot. So he's doing these exercises. And he does this exercise where he lays on this table with his whole upper body from the waist out is suspended like, 8 feet or 10 feet up in the air. And he has a giant weight behind his head. And he goes all the way down and back up. Most of the human race would probably snap in half, actually. But you might be able to do this once or twice. This man does 3 sets of 100. We are finishing. I'm just spotting for safety reasons and just chatting with him. I am sitting there, and he gets to the end of the 3rd set. And I said, 299, 300. And Evander stops with all the muscles and sweat rippling. He goes, Jeff, 299 or 300? I said, it was 300. And he said, was it 299 or 300? I said, Evander, it was 300. And without ever taking his eyes off me, he goes all the way back down one more time. And he comes back up, and he goes, I think it was only 299. Well, I rolled my eyes, like, really? You do 299, 300, whatever? Evander says, Jeff, look at me. And I remember thinking, well, it's been a good life, kind of short, but I guess I earned this. And he said to me something that I never forgot. I had goosebumps. I stood in the room dead silent for minutes after he left. He said, Jeff, the difference between 299 and 300 is the difference between heavyweight champion of the world and every other boxer. And I just sat there with goosebumps, and I never forgot that. In my office today is a big red 299 with a slash through it. My employees know what that means. That means that while 299 is good enough today, guess what's good enough tomorrow? 298, and the day after that it's 297. And guess what's happening in 10 competitors' offices down the street? They're doing 300. There is always somebody sneaking up behind you willing to work harder. Taking shortcuts is never the path to success. So we have this thing up there that when it's late at night, and I think my proposal is pretty damn good, I'm probably going to win this business, but I know in my heart I could do a little bit better. I look up at that 299 on my wall, I grab a cup of coffee, and I stay up the rest of the night and deliver the best damn proposal I've ever delivered. Never take a shortcut and never settle for anything less than 300 if that's what you set out to do. Thank you guys very much for having me, and I think we have time for some questions. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. David, we have time for a few questions?
Yeah, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes. So we've got a couple microphones that are going to be running through the aisles right here. Just put your hand up if you got a question you'd like to ask Jeff.
Sir. Yeah, so I think it's a timing thing. The point was you assumably, and by the way, my email was up there, and I'd love to hear from you guys. One of the things that I like most is people actually go home and start doing some info sponging, and I love hearing the discoveries that people make, so I'd love to hear from you, whatever, good, bad, and different, but there's my email up there. So the question is about focusing on that one thing that you can be the best at versus expanding, and I'm going to say this, just one guy's opinion, but I think it's a timing thing. Your expansion plans you should have and you should develop, but nail something first. My concern is a lot of people are doing this all at once and they're not the best at anything. So all I'm saying is if you have only X number of resources, 10 employees, at the beginning or at some point when you're launching something new, it really behooves you to put almost all your forces on winning something and winning your gold medal. And then everything else you do when you walk in, when you say, now I'm going to try a different track event, but the difference is you're now wearing a gold medal in the 4x4 relay, and now you're going to run the 100 meter or whatever. You're a lot more credible with that gold medal around your neck than when you say, I've entered every event and I finished third in all of them. So I think it's a timing thing. Kill some category first, win it, be the best at it, and then start your expansion. So I would pull all my people in, and it's hard. I used to tell them, everybody tune it all out. Targets, you all know when you're growing a business, targets of opportunity are our worst enemy. Because someone offers you money for something, and you need money, but it's not in your core, and it's not that thing you can do well. Those are hard decisions. There's no way around it. But there were times where we maintained our discipline, and I said, guys, we're going to tough it out. We're going to go hungry a little longer, but it's going to pay off in the end. We're going to invest in ourselves now, and we're going to turn away some things that just keep pulling my people off of our core business. Hard to do, but I think it's critical. Once you win, you will look back, and it is unbelievable how the phone starts ringing then, because people know that you're capable of winning a gold medal at something. Their belief in your ability to win it at something else is much higher after that. Yes?
Hi, Jeff. Actually, a follow-up on exactly that same topic. You know, winning or killing something, there's a question of, you know, you said it's just a matter of timing. Well, there's kind of this idea of being the best on your block, in your, you know, in your neighborhood, in your city, in your geographic region, Northwest, et cetera. And we're facing a situation where you could say that we've got a number of awards, so we've killed it. At the same time, you know, I can always feel that strain on resources as we're trying to develop some new wellness offerings. And so how do you know when you may be waiting too long to get into new space? I mean, we've been at this for 10 years, right? Or do you still keep focusing on killing it because we're only known in Seattle rather than, you know,
well,
Portland?
you know, what you're trying to do, and this may not apply to all of you, the answer to that question, but I would say is that it's all about scale. And scale is all about process in the sense that now I'm talking about a company that's at your stage. Now it's 10 years later. There is a point at whatever number of years it is that your focus changes from figuring out, because it keeps changing in the early stages. You don't know the best way to do it. And you trial and error, and the customers give you feedback, and you change your process. But once you hit a point where you feel like you're actually doing it right now, and you're doing it the best, your focus changes. Your focus now is how to franchise that model, and I don't mean literally. What I mean is, how do I build that model so it becomes a well-oiled machine that is autonomous, that I can bring people in, hand them a training book, and I don't even need to be there anymore. I should be able to walk out and go work on the new thing because my focus was on how to make this business cookie cutter. I will tell you that I had a day, what I would do is have people, you can't allow what we said before. I think Steve told you there's no USB port to the business plan in your head. I would force people, and actually it wasn't forced, it was rewarded for their behavior, but I rewarded people for capturing their expert knowledge into a guidebook. My question was this: you're going to leave for a month for something, and we're going to bring somebody in off the street to do your job. You need to write some kind of guide that person, and sometimes it's not 100% achievable, but the assignment was, write a guide that I could bring someone in off the street and they could do your job, so that eventually all of you could move on to build the new product, and brand new people without your 10 years of experience could run the existing business. That takes thought and planning. And the answer to it, of course, is hiring people smarter than you, which just blows me away when I meet founders and leaders and CEOs that don't want somebody smarter than them around because they might make them look bad. How about they might make you successful? right? They might be so much better than you that your company grows way faster. I'll just tell you, one day, and this was early Priceline days, but I looked at my calendar, and I'm sure it was a system and Outlook problem because there was nothing on it, okay? So I got up, I was like, I have no appointments today, and my assistant said, you have nothing today. So I got up and I walked down the hall. I went to the engineering department, and they're like, dude, we're doing a code review. Could you just keep walking? And I said, I was just trying to help, and they said, we got it. We know exactly what we're supposed to do and how to do it. So I walked down to operations, and they said, yeah, we're having a planning meeting. And I said, can I help you guys with anything? And my head guy said, Jeff, you hired the best people in the business. We know way more about this than you do. How are you going to help us? I was like, hey, sorry. Then I get to finance. And my CFO goes, really? If I showed you this, you couldn't read it anyway. Okay? So he's like, why don't you go golf? So I went back to my office, and I was depressed. I don't golf, as we know. I went back to my office, and I was depressed. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm useless and they don't need me. And I looked up and all my VPs were in my office. And they said, this should be a day of celebration, not depression. And I said, why? And they said, your job as a leader was to build a machine that ran so well that you could go build something new. We got this from here. And they said, Jeff, you achieved the goal. We don't need you. We know exactly what to do. You gave us clear goals. You hired the right people, and the business is mature now. You go build something new. We will take care of this. That is what you're trying to get for, but I didn't realize till that day that I designed it that way. So it's a transition point all of you should reach where you start automating and documenting the business so your best players can get out of it. If they have to be in it to run it, you have an inefficiency issue. Yes?
Three things. First is I want to honor you for choosing EO over the rest of being elsewhere. I think we're dang fortunate for it.
Sure.
Second, I want to honor you for what you did for the women's shelter. I thought that was awfully damn awesome. And third is more out of curiosity. What was that best idea if I missed it? That was given to you from the
Egyptian idea?
Yes.
All right, I'll answer those in the order you asked them. The first question was why EO, and there's a reason, and it's pretty clear. There are lots of organizations. I mean, I do a lot of public speaking, but if there's one thing I can't stand, it's talking versus doing. On any day of the week, I'd rather be building something and not talking about it. I used to notice at work that people around me were spending all their time pushing and shoving at the cocktail party to get in front of the boss, and I wasn't even at the party because I was building something in the lab. I used to always think, I want to live in a world where my results are what I get known for, not my ability to cocktail mingle. I want somebody to come back and say, whoa, wait, who built that? And one point say, that's the guy that built that. I want my life, my business life, to be based on my accomplishments, not the things that I said. EO, so to answer your question, why EO? Because you are people that get stuff done. You are people that are building things, growing things, working on things. And the more I get to know you guys, the more I know that while you love being in a conference like this, what you really want to do is get back to the office and build something. That's why I support EO, because I love your energy and your commitment to making something happen. I have no idea what the second question was. It wasn't a question is why. It was a statement, I think, right? I can't. It was but I will say this about not sharing your ideas. Sometimes people tell me, we've had people come ask for money. And I say, all right, what's the idea? Oh, I can't tell you. I said, oh, I'll grab my checkbook, right? I was like, really? They say, I don't want to share the idea because I'm afraid you'll steal it. Here's my answer. So people say, Jeff, what do I do about telling people my idea? Because I need to raise money or awareness, but I don't want to tell people my idea. My answer is this. If your idea is such that anybody hearing it could immediately copy it and sweep past you, get another idea, okay? That's just not a great idea. It should be an idea that you are uniquely qualified, like I told you. I'm just making something up so I don't have to answer your question. Something that you are uniquely qualified to deal that people can't easily steal. I'm actually advising that company is being launched, so I can't say anything yet. I will tell you this, what I'm really happy about, and I told them that I don't even take a dime out of this thing. I think Google will buy it. And it's a huge victory in post-revolutionary Egypt where young people are adrift and don't know what their future holds. If one of these people can create a company that hires young Egyptians all around him after the revolution and then becomes a success story with an exit that we can tell everybody good ideas happen everywhere. I want to be part of a success for the sake of Egypt, not to make money. I think we can sell it to Google, which is why I promised not to talk about it. But I'm pretty excited about it. Other questions? I don't want to go past our time. Yeah.
Hey, Jeff, I was really intrigued by the story you gave about 1-800-Flowers and how everybody was so focused on whether or not it was selling more flowers. And you said you were trying to do the same thing at Color Jar, and I'm really curious how you actually communicate that to the team. And the reason why I ask is because I really like everybody to be speaking the same language, especially in my organization. But I don't really see that happening, and I think it's my communication strategy.
I think that's great because we were talking at lunch today, I had a business partner that would say to me, I have regular, not every week and maybe every month at the more frequent, but I have regular company meetings, all company meetings, where we bring everybody in. And I actually had my own business partner say to me, Jeff, the programmers don't really need to see the financial report. The receptionist doesn't really need to know what the product plan is. I fundamentally disagree. Employees that know what the goal of the company is in every single position will do a better job of helping you get there if you tell them what it is. So I always err on the side of over-communicating. We have a monthly company update. People dial into a conference number if they're physically out in the field. In the company update, I remind everybody every month what the goals are, what the specific and measurable goals are for this month, what the quarter goals are, what the year target, strategic and tactical are, and then I ask people, I challenge you guys to do this. Go back to your company, ask somebody what they're doing right now, and ask them why they're doing it. And if they can't tie it to one of those goals that you just explained to them at the company meeting, they shouldn't be doing it. Put it down and go find something that sells more flowers. So I constantly do that. I remind them what the goals are for the short term, why they're doing them, and then I field their questions. Somebody will say to me, well, you guys just asked me to do this, and I'm not sure how that achieves that goal. And I'll say, you know what, you're right, we were wrong. Let's get you assigned to something that hits one of those goals up there. So it's a leader's job to constantly remind the company. And I said to the guy that complained once, why are you having the receptionist in a meeting? I asked him, was there an age at which it just really pissed you off at Thanksgiving to sit at the kids' table? There's an age at which it's an insult. I don't want to be at the kids' table anymore at Thanksgiving. I want to sit at the adult table. So why are you doing that to our employees? Why are you making the receptionist feel like she's at the kids' table? Because she's a receptionist? That implies that she'll never have a good idea. Guess what? She might. Everybody in the company has the right to know what the company's goals are. And if you share it with them, you will get the case we got where our receptionist came in one day with an idea to improve our customer service system that my VP of service and ops thought was brilliant. And he did not believe me when I said, yeah, the receptionist came up with that. He actually said, how would she know? And her answer was, because I spend all day fielding the calls of the people that don't know our 800 number, and I have to figure out what their problem is, what they're upset about, and who to send them to. She said, so what you don't know is I route these people to you. I get them before you do, so I got all this raw data, so it gave me an idea. Being inclusive, sharing the goals with everybody, and making them feel like they're at the adult table gets a lot better performance out of them than when you think only your top management needs to hear the plan. Can we do one more? Do we have one more? Yes.
Let's do one more over here. Go ahead.
You talked about info sponging and looking at all these different ideas, but then you also talk about not going into something that you don't know, something you're not uniquely qualified to work on. But when you have the idea for price line, how much about the airline industry did you know? What was your approach to
Well, I will say this: we have. So it's the important part of that sense is that you're not uniquely qualified for. One time in info sponging, we came up with an idea for the fast food business. I don't know that. So you know what I did? I thought the idea was so good I didn't want to let it go, but I didn't fool myself into thinking that me, not coming from fast food, could do it. So I went and organized a completely separate team. We went and raided several companies. Actually, interestingly, if you remember, because this guy ran for president briefly, we went and hired Herman Cain. And he came to work for us when he was the head of the National Restaurant Association at the time, because the guy knew the restaurant, the quick serve fast food business. He'd been in it his whole life and none of us had ever been in it. We went and hired a new team of people who were uniquely qualified to win, and I got out of their way. So my point is, when you think about you and the people on your team, the time you should be spending your time on something you're really qualified for, But I'm not saying don't ever pursue ideas you don't know. Just don't try to pursue them with a team that doesn't know. Go get people. When we went and made the first movie that I made out in Hollywood, I didn't try to operate the camera or act or write a script. But I did do the marketing, I did do the financing, I did the stuff I knew how to do, and I went and hired people out of that industry to build a team of people that had unique assets to win at that. So the answer is, if you find something that's that good but it's out of your wheelhouse, go to another wheelhouse and get people involved in it. You just have to have a nice Chinese wall between those businesses, because you can't be pulling resources off your core business and expect to ever be the best at one thing if those people keep darting back and forth. What we said is we're going to fund this separately and we're going to have a separate company. We shared some resources like HR, like accounting. We had people that worked on both companies because they could, but we made sure we had talent specific to each one and we separated them. Not easy to do, but if it was easy to do, every company would be a $30 billion company, I guess. Thank you guys very much. I am going to stay with you guys the rest of the day this evening. So again, I appreciate being here. Thanks.
Thank you.